Hello, folks, and thank you for tuning in to the Eek channel. My name is James, and today I am joined by my co-host,
Josh.
How's it going tonight, Josh?
It's going great.
It is going great. This is a SpoilerVision episode, which means that we watch a scary movie and then we discuss it. We give you our immediate hot takes and review to determine if the movie gets the original Eek seal of quality. There it is. I was waiting for it. This week on SpoilerVision, we are discussing In the Mouth of Madness. And what is super fun about this is this week is a co-host pick week, and this was your pick.
It sure was.
So, just why did you pick this movie?
It had been on when we first started this podcast. We kind of went through some of our favorites, and then we went by decades, and we've done a lot of, I think, research. And since I'm a little new to the whole horror genre, and in terms of like the deep cuts, this showed up on almost every single list. And I'm very familiar with Sam Neill simply because of Jurassic Park. And then once I kind of got more into John Carpenter, I went, oh, this is one of his. And obviously I would be super interested in that period. And it hasn't really come up even in conversation.
Yeah, it hasn't.
And I was thinking about movies that I wanted to see, and some of like the super, super gory, bloody ones, I can take them or leave them if I ever see them.
Right.
But this one, I tried to stay pretty far away from all the analysis and all the synopsis and all of that thing. And I just kind of wanted to go in pretty fresh. So this movie came to mind, and I mean, I think I picked it 3 or 4 weeks ago, and since then I've done nothing on it. So I just wanted to go in cold.
That's awesome. I don't think anyone else had seen this movie other than me. And I only really saw it because I did a 31 Scary Movies in October challenge just for myself.
Cool.
A couple years ago. And it was pre-podcast. It was actually kind of when the nugget of the podcast idea was happening. And I was like, oh, I'm going to do this and I'm going to review all 31 movies and like start a blog. And then maybe from that launch a podcast. Didn't do any of that. I started typing up reviews for like the first 2 movies, and then I was like, if I take the time to write about every single movie, then I don't have time to watch every movie because I'm watching one every day, and I was working crazy hours, and this isn't going to happen.
No.
So I just watched the movies.
Yes.
And this was one that hit my list simply because I like John Carpenter.
Of course.
I love Sam Neill because I love Jurassic Park. And I really like kind of Lovecraftian type stuff as well. And so when I found out that this existed and it was a Lovecraftian kind of thing that John Carpenter made that I'd never even heard of, I was like, this sounds very interesting to me. This movie's kind of difficult to find. It's not available for streaming on a lot of places. I don't think it's on Vudu.
Oh.
If it is, it's a new edition.
Okay.
It's not like on Shudder or anything. And there's like, I found it at Mega Replay as like a used DVD for like $10, which
is a lot for Mega Replay.
If you've seen their used DVD section, they're like $4.
Yeah.
So that's when you know it's something that they don't see every day. And the Blu-ray copy, Scream Factory put out a really nice Blu-ray for it, but that runs you like $40.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So the movie is not super attainable. It's kind of hard to get your hands on it to actually watch it.
Like this seems like a Shudder just thing. Like it'd be their wheelhouse.
Yeah, you would think so. And so I don't know if maybe that's a rights issue, or maybe it's just people would rather watch, Halloween and Christine when it comes to Carpenter horror flicks and The Fog. But anyway, so I watched it that time, and I only watched it once, and it was in the middle of this 31 movies in 31 days. So like, if I'm being honest, like a lot of that stuff, little details you just don't remember when you're watching that many movies that quickly. And so I was kind of going in cold as well. There are a few pieces that I really remembered plot wise, but pretty cold. So, In the Mouth of Madness is a 1994 American horror film. It's directed and scored by John Carpenter, written by Michael DeLuca. It stars Sam Neill, Dr. Alan Grant, Julie Carmen, Jurgen Prochnow, David Warner, and Charlton Heston.
Yes.
Who's kind of a surprise.
Just out of nowhere.
But he falls so much in line with this weird trend that Carpenter has of getting really like high level theater style actors in his movies, just like a Donald Pleasance. It's like Donald Pleasance has no business being in 3, 4, no, more than that. He's in like 5 or 6 Halloween movies. And it's like, why?
Yeah.
Not only that, he's also in John Carpenter's Prince of Darkness. Like, it's strange. It's strange.
I mean, he could have gotten any old guy to play the part Charles Heston did.
But you know what's amazing is, and maybe this is me being, maybe it's a biased opinion just because I know who he is, but I felt like he had a gravitas to that role that was like shocking. Like, that character shouldn't be as strong as it was, but it's because of Charlton Heston.
Yeah.
Like, okay, we're getting a little ahead of ourselves, but that's fine. I'm gonna get into our back of the box here. Sutter Kane is a best-selling author whose newest horror novel is literally driving readers insane. When he inexplicably vanishes, his publisher sends Special Investigator John Trent to track him down. Drawn to a town that only exists in Kane's books, Trent crosses the barrier between fact and fiction and enters a terrifying world from which there is no escape. To In the Mouth of Madness.
To In the Mouth of Madness.
Doop.
Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat.
And now for our feature presentation.
That sound means that we are back.
And we're back.
And we are back with our thoughts on In the Mouth of Madness. We're going to start off with some numbers here. The budget for this film is estimated at roughly $8 million. The worldwide gross of this film, estimated at $9 million.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
Did just well enough that probably no one lost their job. I should have looked up. I'm not sure what the gap is between this movie and Carpenter's next, because it was 94. I feel like that's after Escape from New York. I feel like it's obviously after Big Trouble in Little China,
right?
But Escape from LA may not have happened yet.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Yeah, I feel like that feels like more like a 98.
I was going to say
like
99, 98.
Yeah.
It was right at the end.
Yep. So yeah, it didn't do great, but it's kind of a niche movie, and I think at that time, in particular, we didn't have quite as much of Lovecraft in pop culture as we do today.
Oh, definitely not.
This movie being made today is a much bigger deal than it was in 1994.
Yeah.
So I think that's kind of an interesting thing about it. It seems like it kind of came out at a weird time. Also, we're utilizing Sam Neill, who obviously gets his big break in Jurassic Park, which doesn't happen for another 2 years. We had a lot of conversation about Sam Neill's acting chops, particularly his accents. Sam Neill is from Ireland, and I don't know where his character is supposed to be from in this film.
Some would say Alabama, Australia land.
And then at other times, he sounds very Irish, specifically when he says, "Thick that." And then at another time, he sounded very British.
And then when he called, what's her, the lady at the front desk called her an old bitch. Like, but he
Oh,
said
yeah,
it
then it
very
got
southern.
real southern. Hey, yo, bitch. And then, and then at one point in the very kind of first act of the film, he's in New York and like he's talking to these people, and it's in like this high-rise New York swanky place, and like he starts talking like mile a minute, like Dick Tracy, Private Eye, like.
You're like, oh, see,
It's just freaking weird. I don't know what he was going for. I don't know what he figured out. And the shocking thing is, I love Jurassic Park. I've seen it so many times. I have examined Sam Neill's performance in that film many, many times, just from childhood to adulthood. And I never even realized he had an accent in that movie. But he's obviously doing an American accent. He's doing it quite well.
That's what he did in those 2 years.
That's what he did in those years. Just work on American accents, because this was a shit show. But you know, we'll move past that. The trivia for this film, there's some good ones here. So this is the third film in what John Carpenter considers his Apocalypse trilogy. I don't know if you knew this or not.
I'd heard about that.
Okay.
Yeah, keep going.
So that starts with The Thing in 1982. The second is Prince of Darkness in 1987, and then this film, 1994. So none of them are necessarily directly tied to one another, but in his mind, they exist kind of in the same universe. So all three of them deal with Lovecraftian, eldritch, old gods.
Cosmic horror.
Yes. And
Perfect.
so that... in his mind, the events of The Thing happen in this world, and then the events of Prince of Darkness happen, and then the events of...
I haven't seen Prince of Darkness.
I watched Prince of Darkness for the first time not too long ago, and a lot of people say that it's kind of a sleeper hit Carpenter movie, and that people should give it a little more love. I'll give you my quick 2 cents on it. I thought it was really slow. It was difficult for me to get into, but this movie is also slow at times in The Mouth of Madness. And so I guess if you're putting those two on a scale together, it kind of makes more sense. But, you know, just knowing Carpenter and what he's capable of, there's never a slow moment in Big Trouble in Little China.
No.
It's either action or laughter constantly.
Yeah.
And I think that he can do that in horror as well. I guess some people might say the first Halloween feels slow. Maybe they do think that with a more modern horror movie palette. I guess I could see that. I don't think so. I think that the tension stays there throughout the film, and I think that that's maybe what in the Mouth of Madness and the Prince of Darkness both kind of lack.
Gotcha.
Robot Monster is the movie that Sam Neill is watching in the hotel room. And that is a movie from 1953, which is one of John Carpenter's favorite monster movies as a kid.
Huh.
Yeah.
Robot Monster.
Robot Monster.
Just right on the nose.
1953.
What should we name this? You know.
I liked this one. So there's the scene where, what was her name? I thought I put it in here. Julie Carmen's character.
Oh my goodness.
Whatever. Julie
doesn't
Carmen. There's the scene where she swallows the keys.
Yes.
The keys were a prop made out of pasta. So she actually swallowed them. She didn't just like put them in her mouth and then they cut away and they're gone. Like they made fake keys out of pasta.
What?
So she could actually swallow it. Things that happened.
What?
Things that happened with people like John Carpenter, these types of directors and filmmakers that just don't seem to exist anymore. Things that happened with them that they wouldn't do today. Today they'd be like, "Hey, put the key in your mouth and spit it out." Like,
yeah, we'll edit it.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Actually swallowed fake keys.
I just like to be in the prop guy. What are you doing today? I'm making keys. Out of what? Pasta.
I'm finding a way to mold
No,
this
you're not.
pasta into a key.
Yeah, I am.
It's freaking awesome.
Someone got a credit for that. I love it.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. It's amazing. So also we didn't say anything about this on this film. The special effects supervisor on this is Greg Nicotero. So this is which is why some of these monsters are just insane. I mean, obviously, we see a taste of that in The Thing, and they spend even more time on screen and even more time being ginormous in this movie than they ever do in The Thing. The wall of monsters at the end was not several monsters being controlled individually. Instead, that was all one effect that was attached to a vehicle-like wheelbase and pushed along with a crank. During the filming of the scene, the wall of monsters ran over Greg Nicotero's foot, and he had to go to the hospital.
Oh, God bless 80s and 90s practical effects. Oh, that's so good. Those stories are so good.
Big thing. I think they're talking about the moment where he's running out, and all
Right.
of the horrors are behind him.
Out of that weird
that
tunnel
tunnel
thing.
the Batcave tunnel.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so that was just like one big float, like a parade float, that they would just like turn a crank on the side and it would move forward.
Huh.
And
What
like all the individual parts would move.
What a strange way they thought back then. It could have just been like 5 guys in costumes.
5 guys in costumes chasing him.
But no.
No.
They built this extra
yeah.
thing. I love it.
And what I love about that too is like, you know, some of that stuff gets lost to time or like gets shoved in a warehouse or something, but like a lot of times that stuff is saved either in a prop warehouse somewhere or like people that worked on the production have that. Like that could be in some dude's garage right now.
Yeah.
Like the whole thing.
Like some people have like a doom buggy. You have scary RV with cranks.
Pretty amazing. All right, Josh, would you like to tell us what happens in the Mouth of Madness?
What a tough movie. Okay.
It's hard to explain. Because I think the point of the movie is that we don't really know what happens.
Right.
That's kind of the whole point.
Yeah. It makes you question the reality of the movie.
Yep.
So, it opens in an insane asylum.
Yes.
And you see Sam Neill, and he's decorated his room with all of these crosses. Just basically like an eccentric thing to show that he's kind of baddie.
Yeah.
And the doctor comes in, the psychiatrist comes in and asks him just kind of like how he's feeling, blah blah blah. And he goes, "You're here to ask about them, or the thing that's causing me to like my boogeyman, basically.
Yeah.
What's making what's causing my break?" And he goes, "Yeah, that is why I'm here." And then he begins this story. So
this storytelling device is exactly the same as Big Trouble in Little China. This is how Big Trouble in Little China starts. It's like the insurance agent guy or whatever is talking to Egg and like, "Oh, tell me what happened." And he's like, "Oh, I don't know if I can. I don't know if you'll really believe it." And he's like, "Well, why not?" It's like, "Well, magic's not real." And he's like, "Oh, but Chinese black magic is real." And they did the little lightning thing. And then the whole movie is Egg telling the story. Just like how this movie opens up with a scene like that. And then Sam Neill's telling the story.
Wow. I love it.
You know, I mean, that's a pretty typical storytelling device of like opening up like the cold open like that, and then like, "Well, let me tell you what happened."
Right.
And like, it's just interesting that both of those movies are doing this.
I definitely didn't put those two together because I love Big Trouble in Little China.
Yeah.
So he starts to tell this story, and he's an insurance adjuster investigator who gets called in by this publishing company to investigate the author that they represent.
Yeah, this missing author, Sutter Kane. He's kind of a stand-in for potentially a Lovecraft, but actually, from the trivia that I read, it said that at this time, this is post Christine.
Mm-hmm.
So Carpenter had worked with Stephen King, and so he kind of says that obviously this is a Lovecraftian thing, but you know, H.P. Lovecraft wasn't writing in the 80s and 90s. No. You know, that was much earlier, and so like he kind of says that he based some of the persona of Sutter Kane kind of on Stephen King.
That's what pops out to me.
Yeah, I mean, it even has sort of this. his little town that he makes, was a Hobbs End.
Hobbs End.
Yeah, it even has this sort of
I
like
mean, it's in
it's in
Maine,
Vermont. It's in Vermont, right?
I mean,
next.
it's exactly
Stephen
what,
King country.
yeah. Like there's an author getting hit by a car. It's Anyways, so he gets asked to investigate the disappearance
yes,
of the author.
Yeah,
because
the idea being that he's representing the insurance company, and if Sutter Kane is dead, then the publishing company is entitled to his last book. If he is alive, then he has like appearances to make, and like he's kind of reneging on his contract a little bit by going missing.
Right.
Yeah.
So Charlton Heston, who's the head of the publishing company, sends the girl whose name we can't remember.
Yeah.
With Sam Neill.
Julie Carmen.
Julie Carmen, yes. To well, actually no. They have this interaction where Julie Carmen says, blah blah blah, these books, they're more than just books, and Sutter Kane has this, there's a story behind all of it.
Yeah.
So he starts to read these books.
Yeah.
And he has some kind of nightmares while he's reading them, and in a fit of, you would say, I guess, inspiration / clarity, he sees all of the covers of all of his books, cuts them out like origami, and creates this map, which he believes
starts piecing all of the covers together in this way that as the viewer you're like, what puzzle are you putting together? It's not like these pictures are like matching up.
Not at all.
And like oh, this, it's like, like that's like a cool artistic thing that like bands will do with their CD art, album art. Or like, oh, if you put them all together, it like makes this big picture. Like, it's not like that, which is what you would expect out of a situation like this.
When it's done, it doesn't still look like anything.
To us, we're just looking at a blob, and he feels like
I've cracked the code.
He's cracked the code, and like rushes back to Charlton Heston and be like, hey, look at this. And understandably, Charlton Heston's like, the fuck?
I don't get it. So he says, oh, this is a map. This, like, Hobbs End, I think, is a real place, and this thing that I cut out is the map to it.
Because apparently Sutter Kane always used his own artist for his covers and wouldn't let the publishers do it themselves, because he was putting this map into his covers, and so they overlay like a Sharpie drawing of all of New England for some reason. They overlay that like as a transparency on top of the map, and it's like, oh, the map's the perfect shape of Vermont. Wait, no, it was New Hampshire. Vermont's the other one that looks like a V. It was this one.
Oh, it's one of it's one of the small ones.
Doesn't really matter.
It has a lot of trees. They don't really play good football, whatever. Anyways. So.
Sorry if you're from New England. I lived in Connecticut for a while. I have no desire to go back.
I'm not sorry you don't play good football. So, Charlton Heston sends Julie Carmen and Sam Neill to this place. Like, hey, find him.
They go to the idea being that, oh, Hobbs End is a fictional town, isn't real, but he's like basing it off of this, and maybe this is his hiding place.
Right. So they go there, and then things just kind of start to just go off the rails.
Yeah.
From the drive-in, both of them have weird images, visions of the road kind of disappearing.
Yeah.
Them driving in the sky.
Yep.
It's this weird reoccurring child / old man on a bike.
Yeah.
Which will come back many times later.
Yeah.
And then they just kind of get to the town. They find out that it's real. It's abandoned, it seems like.
Mm-hmm. There's very, very few people there.
And throughout this whole experience, they have these visions of whatever.
Oh, yeah.
But as soon as they get there, Julie Carmen sees these kids. Sam Neill doesn't see them. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
So they then find an inn. They're like, okay, we found the city or the town.
Yeah.
and we need to stay here. So they get a room, and I guess after the room, they just kind of
They notice
Yeah.
they have like this big argument of like, oh, this place can't be real, blah 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 blah. You guys built this as like a prop to like promote the book and all that. Like these are all actors that are living here and working here. You're paying for all this. This is all big publicity stunt.
Right.
And she's kind of like, no, this is all real. And he's like, if this was real, there would be a church out here with black spires and
From Byzantine Empire.
yeah. And he like opens the window and it's just like a barn. And he's like, and she goes, you didn't read the books closely enough. The view is from the east. And she opens the window on the other side of the hotel room.
There it is.
Boom, there it is. So then they go there to investigate the church, assuming that that's probably where Sutter Kane is holed up in.
And then I would say from here, everything just kind of hits the fan.
Yeah. A lot of events happen, and a lot of it doesn't necessarily make sense.
And chronologically, it doesn't. It's gonna seem really jumbled.
Yeah. And we don't necessarily have to go through everything. I think it's fine. It's one of those movies that like the point of the movie isn't these little tiny details, even though you think that it's supposed to be the little tiny details, but that's the whole point. So Cody was watching this with us. Cody's a regular co-host, and the Vermont thing happens.
Yes.
And he just starts making fun of it already. And I'm like, yeah, but that's the whole meta part of this story. You saw how the story ends, where Sam Neill is in an insane asylum and he's acting cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs.
Yep.
It's already starting. It starts with the Vermont thing. Like, this is already the ravings of a lunatic.
Right.
Like, it just hasn't gotten too obvious yet.
Yeah.
And so, like, when you think about it in that mindset, it's like all of these things that seem silly or don't make any sense in the plot, that's the whole point. They're supposed to be silly because he's nuts.
Right.
So really what we dig into here, there's a lot of Sutter Kane writing things that come into existence. There's a lot of people transforming into eldritch horror, Lovecraftian monster, Cronenberg-y things. But the idea being, our biggest reveal is that Sam Neill, John Trent is his character. Sam Neill's character is the main character of Sutter Kane's new book.
Yes.
And he was written into existence by Sutter Kane. And of course, this guy's like, no, I have memories. Like, I am a person. I'm from reality. You've created this crazy world that you've sucked me into, but I'm not from this place.
Yep.
And Sutter Kane's like, don't deny it. You should read the books. He equates himself to God at one point. And that's really kind of what we're led to believe kind of is what's happening. But maybe it's not. And maybe this guy's just losing his mind. We don't really know. It is a much darker version of Stranger Than Fiction with Will Ferrell.
Yes. Because Sutter Kane he refers to himself as God, and that the people who read the book and believe in it are like his followers.
Yes.
And that this last book will bring the change.
Yes.
And basically turn everybody crazy or
into these monsters or
and
whatever.
What he's doing is bringing about the coming of, he said, the old ones.
Yes, he did.
Which is obviously classic Lovecraft verbiage.
Exactly.
And that he as he writes it into existence.
Yes.
It's
interesting. It's interesting. So what I actually love is sort of, before we move into the next portion of the review, what I love is really the whole final sequence of we kind of end the story with what led John Trent up to this point, and then we cut back to quote unquote present time, where he's talking with the psychiatrist.
Right.
And, they kind of wrap things up. Psychiatrist walks out. The guy who's like this weird mad scientist
Yeah.
doctor who's in charge of this asylum is like, oh, did he tell you anything of importance? And he's like, no, he's completely lost it. He thinks he's a character in a novel, and yada yada yada. Then the old ones, or what we believe are the old ones, or some kind of creature horror
Yep.
thing, runs rampant through the asylum, and Sam Neill is the only one left in there,
Right.
and his door gets ripped open or whatever, and he's able to leave, and so we get this amazing, absolutely amazing 28 days later.
That's the first thing I thought with the paper and the gown
Yep.
and just
He's
my goodness.
walking through this he walks by the ambulance, and you hear like the emergency radio, like, oh, there's creatures out here and everybody run for safety. We're going to try to keep this emergency line open as long as we can, go here for safety, like all this kind of stuff. And when you see something like that, and it's such a direct correlation to 28 days later. I mean, it's the exact same way 28 days later starts the movie. It's really fun and cool as a viewer, but then you're like, you just recognize more at how old some of the stuff can be, that John Carpenter made that scene in 1994, and then 28 days later was early 2000s, at least 2004 maybe. And did the exact same thing. So that was really cool, and I love that whole sequence because it has this Twilight Zone feel of him coming out. Oh, and let me also say that this exact same moment is replicated by Walking Dead in both the comics and the show.
Oh, for
that's
sure.
how the show starts, with Rick waking up in a hospital and then leaving, and he's walking through with the hospital gown, trying to figure out what the hell's going on, and there's zombies everywhere. Literally exactly the same. And who knew? Who knew that came from In the Mouth of Madness? Maybe there's an older movie or story that has a similar thing that happens. I'm not sure. But the fact that it happened in this movie, I think, is really interesting.
I'd bet there is.
There probably is.
Yeah.
It probably is. And so I love this whole sequence because it has this Twilight Zone vibe of like just nobody being there. And one of the things that a reader, a follower of Sutter Kane, told John Trent, Sam Neill, before he went into the insane asylum, he goes, well, what about people that don't read? And they go, oh, no, sorry, that's what the psychiatrist asked John Trent that. And he said, well, there's the movie. And so what is interesting, funny, cheesy, meta,
super meta,
whatever you want to say about it, you're watching the movie. The book's called In the Mouth of Madness. Oh, well, what about the people who don't read the book? Oh, well, they'll watch the movie. You're watching the movie right now as a real person.
I feel like that meta concept then went way over people's heads.
Way over. No one had any idea what he was trying to say.
Just like the connection of media to itself, I think at the time 30 years ago,
right,
was just pretty abstract for most people.
Absolutely. So that moment happens, and then we have a James bonus point moment, because he goes to a movie theater.
Oh yeah, he does.
And he's watching, of course, what's playing at the movie theater is In the Mouth of Madness, and he's watching the film, and the film that he is watching is literally the film that we just watched.
Oh yeah.
And so that is, if you've ever seen it as a meme or a gif or whatever of Sam Neill sitting with a big bucket of popcorn, almost doing like the Michael Jackson Thriller thing, eating the popcorn, but he's also like laughing hysterically. That's from this movie. That's how this movie ends.
Yeah.
And it's one of my favorite movie endings maybe ever. I just love the way it ends.
It was very ambiguous.
Yeah.
But it still communicated so much emotion,
and it felt so much like the Twilight Zone. I think that's why I liked it. Twilight Zone ends that way so much, and I think a lot of people with a modern sensibility would look at an ending like that and be like, oh, that's cheesy, because you don't know really what's happening, but they didn't do it in a super creative, artistic way. But like, there's something about that style of storytelling that just sticks with you. It makes you think about the way it ended afterwards. It makes you want to do what we're doing and talk about it.
Mhm.
And not everything, when you give me all the answers to everything by the end of the movie, I don't really need to talk about it anymore.
Mhm.
And so that's what I love about stories like that and movies and shows and
Oh yeah.
whatever. I need to find out the Rotten Tomatoes score on this real quick.
Okay.
So do you want to talk about the way the movie looks and sounds?
Sure.
Oh, the way it sounds.
So I'll start with the way it looks. It's even so we had talked in previous episodes about how movies from the early 90s look very similar to 80s movies.
Yep.
This I think is one of the it seems it's right on it hit the top of the curve and it's
Yep.
on the other side.
I agree.
So it has definitely an 80s feel, but it feels very post 80s,
Yep.
if that makes sense.
I agree. And we get that moment of Sutter Kane kind of tearing himself
Yeah.
as a page of the book.
Mm-hmm.
And like that creates like this hole in the universe where the old ones are coming forth. And the hole is also like on the inside of it is like the book.
Yeah.
Kind of more proving that like we are inside this book as
Mm-hmm.
this universe.
Yeah.
And you know, it is kind of cheesy and hokey at first. I was like, oh man, that looks bad. And then as it's happening, I'm like, you know what? For 1994, like what they're doing here with these more kind of digitally imposed special effects is pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure it probably shocked people when they first watched it in 94 of like,
Yeah.
this man is standing there as an actor and then he reaches up and he rips himself open as if he was a piece of paper.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
It's also crazy that in 2 years they made Jurassic Park.
I know.
It's just like Steven Spielberg, you unbelievable man.
He made it so
My
much better,
goodness.
so much quicker.
But overall, I think the movie looked great. I mean,
I agree.
I think it fit the time period. I think it didn't look dated,
Mhm.
and it obviously looks dated now to some
Yeah.
degree. But no, I think it looks great. And
It
then,
looks great. You know what they do great in this movie is depicting. Well, I guess it's kind of interesting. They're depicting what in the 90s we thought New York City looked like.
Yes.
You know, I'm not even certain that I could say that that's what New York City actually was like in the 90s, but it's like
It was. I think it was pretty dirty.
Well, you know, you watch. I've seen things like some of those really set like 70s, 80s New York indie film horror movies like Street Trash, where like and Basket Case. You saw
yeah,
Basket
yeah.
Case,
Oh,
like
yeah.
that was New York in early 80s, and it is
It
dirty,
is filthy.
and those
Oh.
guys aren't doing it on a set. Like
No.
that's not fake dressing.
No,
like,
no.
They just walked
They
outside.
had to shoo away the prostitutes. Hey, we're shooting here. We just need one of them. Get out of here.
So, you know, I think that maybe that was maybe a little bit of a carryover from what we thought
Yeah.
New York was like in the 90s. That alleyway with that cop beating
Yeah.
up gangbangers,
I
punks.
guess,
I don't
yeah.
know what you want to. I don't even know what those kids are
Ruffian.
doing. Ruffians. That part's kind of interesting. The sound of this movie is interesting because it has a lot of great Carpenter score moments.
Mhm.
Nothing that's necessarily, you know, as groundbreaking as say the Halloween score or Halloween 3 score or even the Fog score.
Yeah.
But still good,
Mhm.
still really good. And what I think is always amazing about Carpenter films is that even if the score isn't as good as say the Fog or Halloween, he always pays so much attention to what's happening in the audio track, more so than a lot of filmmakers back then or today for that matter. And I love that about him as a creative. I love that I can watch this movie that was made in 1994 on my fairly modest 5.1 surround sound system and literally hear like swirling, gurgly, rippy tear sounds that like fully encompass me.
He really at all times uses the sound to just make the scene more, just
Yeah.
to add another level of depth.
Right.
And I think the only thing I would critique in sound wise is sometimes the lines of the actors sometimes went up and down in terms of how loud they were.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think that's probably.
I think that's the actors.
I think that's I was. I think that's just weirdness.
I don't know that I've seen much other things with old Julie Carmen in them, but I don't know that she's maybe at her best in this. And Sam Neill is certainly not at his best, as we've already discussed with his randomly changing accent. Then also the sound, what makes it interesting is it has all these things that are kind of good going for it, but then it has this really kind of cheesy 90s metal music.
It sounds like Ride the Lightning Metallica and like Halloween. Like it was a weird
and
marriage.
It's just like, why?
I love it, but it's weird.
Right. Like I was having fun with it, but I'm like, why is this here?
It's not iconic, but it's enjoyable.
Yeah. It's definitely a product of its time, for sure. Would you say that this film is scary?
Oh. No,
it has a couple decent jump scare moments. What I also think is interesting about this film is it seems like Carpenter's really pushing the jump scare in this movie, more so than he ever has in anything before. And I don't know if that was, I have a lot that I want to portray in the actual story of this film, but I know that you're expecting me to scare you, so I'm going to have to like force some scares in.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it's that. I don't really know.
I don't either.
There's a couple really good jump scares, but then there's some that it's just like, what are we doing?
You just go, oh, this is going to happen, and it did.
I feel like you're doing it just to make something happen so I'm not bored, which, let's be honest, is the sign of a bloated script. That's just what it is.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's not really a scary movie. The scariest moment for me, there's a really great jump scare with the police officer, well, dang it, I have two. So my first one is a scene that we didn't actually talk about, and it's around when the story of the movie opens. After we see the pre-opening, then we have like the film actually starting.
Okay.
And Sam Neill's character, John Trent, is at the diner, and then we see it's our first introduction to this Sutter Kane crazy thing.
Right.
And we see this guy coming in who is Sutter Kane's agent. We find out later, and he has this axe, which, where do these people get all the axes in this movie? Everybody's got a freaking axe.
I know.
And he's in New York City. Where the hell do you find an axe in New York City?
Find a tree to chop down. Goodness.
And so he's got this axe, and I'm not talking like a modern axe. I'm talking like a lumberjack axe. This thing was
Paul Bunyan,
handed down from generation to generation. Yep. And he kind of waltzes in. Well, not in. He's like standing outside and looking through a big window at Sam Neill sitting in the diner, and Sam Neill never really notices him because it's New York. There's people walking by the windows all the time, but he's just standing there, crazed and like clothes a mess, and like clearly something's up with Jack. And he's got this axe, and then he swings the axe, shatters the window. It's kind of our first jump scare, and I think it's really, really well done. Then my second part is just my second scariest moment is just the moments of old man makeup kid on the bike. Just the way those are done
every time
are really good. I bet that there is a very good and logical explanation for that character. He probably is supposed to represent something.
I'm sure he does.
I have no idea what it is.
No clue.
But he is scary as hell.
Oh, so simple, but so every time he went on screen, you just feel I'd probably agree. There's a jump scare that got you and Cody.
That was the cop.
That was the cop. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, that was I like that.
That was the dream within a dream. Classic dream within a dream situation.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a cliche at this point, but we didn't expect it to happen.
Yeah.
And the cop, he wakes up from his dream where he saw the cop as kind of like zombified, turning into a creature thing, and then he wakes up from his dream and it's like, oh, it's over, and then like the cop's sitting right next to him. That's the one that really got me.
I didn't like that I jumped it.
There's a great musical sting. There's a great like is exactly what you want from a jump scare, even if you're mad that it got you. Best kill.
Ooh, So this is probably the first time I've thought of this
Uh-huh.
as we watched the movie.
Great.
There were 2 kills.
Not a lot.
I guess I'll take one of them, and
Sure.
I just say it's near the end when kind of the world is catching this disease,
Oh yeah.
and Sam Neill asks this
it's the best
kid
one.
who just bought the book. He goes, "So did you like the book?" And the kid's like, "Yeah," or whatever.
I think he says, "Did you read till the end or something like
Something,
that?"
yeah. And then the kid's like, "Yeah," and then boom, axe to the head.
Well, he says, "Then you know what happens next."
Oh, you're right. I agree with that.
And like that's kind of a cheesy line, but like it's so good because at this point he is so bought into the fact that he is the character in the book, and it's like no matter what I do, because he hasn't read it.
Right.
So no matter what I do,
He's like, "It's in the book."
I have no control over me.
Yeah.
And so like that's kind of like that's the Twilight zoniness of it, that like he's taking the initiative to do something completely out of character for him himself. Everything that he knows about himself would never just take an axe and murder some kid in the middle of the street.
Right.
And he's like
He's given up control, just whatever.
but at the same time it's almost like that's like him trying to force his own control, you
Yeah,
know?
I was
And it's
just-
like he's like I'm going to break out of this. Like
Yeah.
you've written me to do this, well guess what? I'm going to go hit this kid with an axe.
Something so crazy that's not
Yeah.
normally me.
But
It
he-
still is.
But then he just knows.
Yeah.
He's like, "Oh, well, you know what happens next.
Yeah.
You've read the book. You know that you're going to walk out and I'm going to hit you with an axe."
Yeah.
Because that's what happens. Because I have no control.
And the other kill was just the shotgun.
Yeah, that's
Good.
true.
I mean, self-inflicted shotgun wound.
Meh.
whatever.
From the guy who's the painting in
Yeah.
Ghostbusters 2.
Yeah, whatever.
Yeah, the ending one with the axe was definitely better. I totally agree. Let's go ahead and move into our thumbs up, thumbs
What was-
down.
Oh, never mind. Sorry.
It
No, you were gonna look it up, but I know it comes now. Continue.
comes now.
Yep.
Would you like to know it before you give me yours?
I already have my
Perfect.
score.
So thumbs up, thumbs down, and nuggets. Our nugget scale, nuggetometer, is very similar to a Rotten Tomatoes tomato meter, and it is currently 59% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Huh.
Yeah.
Huh.
So I'll go ahead and go first. I'm giving the movie a thumbs up for sure. The thing that I really, really love about it, I feel like I talk about it on this show a lot, and it's that I like it when movies are able to. A lot of people want their horror to be believable and realistic, and that's why we got the whole torture porn segment, because we
Yep.
were tired of this over the top slasher thing, and so
Yep.
like, no, this is real and like gritty, and like I get that. And you know, I love things, even slashers that do that, like The Strangers is, even though it's a slasher, it's very realistic.
Mhm.
Even, you know, the first Halloween, we get a little crazier with the other ones, but like the first Halloween, like this is just a guy with a mask. Like he doesn't have special powers or anything like that. He's just a guy with a mask. And I really, really love those movies too. But my favorite horror movies are things like Nightmare on Elm Street, where they're allowed to break the rules. It's why I like ghost movies. It's why I like just supernatural horror in
Mhm.
general, because you don't have to abide by the laws of physics. You don't have to abide by anything. You can be as artistic as you want. And I think that this is one of the few, maybe only really, horror movies where John Carpenter allows himself to do that. The Fog obviously is ghosts, so he could have done that, but I feel like he didn't. The ghosts in The Fog are very
They seem very tangible.
they're very tangible. They're very straightforward. They are pirates from a ship that crashed many years ago, and it
And
was
they're
right off
mad.
the coast of this town, and then they come back and they kill everybody with their scabbards. Like, it's very straightforward. You don't have this almost Poltergeist or Nightmare on Elm Street level of reality bending. And I love that he got to experiment with that in this film.
Mhm.
I love when that happens. Well, I mean, we see it in the very first time we really start seeing it is in the car when they're on their way to Hobbs Deep. And we see Kid on the bike the first time. That's weird. Kid on the bike in the middle of nowhere. And then you see Kid on the bike the second time. Now he's in old man makeup. Okay, things are definitely getting weird here.
Yeah.
And then, okay, now the car is flying. Okay, like now we're in this new town and it's daytime, and it's like, what the hell just happened?
Yeah.
And we fool with that a lot in this movie. The kids show up and they are only seen by Julie Carmen's character,
Mhm.
and Sam Neill's character doesn't see them. There's these things that are supernatural and don't necessarily we don't take the time to explain the rules to them. None of it really matters because all of it is in this movie. They have the excuse of, oh well, it's just what he wrote.
Right.
It could be anything. It doesn't
Yeah.
matter. It's just what he wrote. But I love that we can kind of have these more just big unexplainable situations happen in this movie, and I think that they execute them all really, really well. And so that's why I really like it. Thumbs up from me. I will say, due to maybe some of not the best acting, due to maybe the story in general not holding a ton of water, I feel like I can't give it a super high Nuggets rating. I'm not going to tell anyone that like this is a must see. If you've never seen any Carpenter movies before, hell, watch Christine before you watch this. Like, it's just not that like imperative of a film, but I do like it. And so I'm gonna say 64 Nuggets.
Oh.
So just a little bit better than what Rotten Tomatoes thinks, but not by much. Because this movie's kind of hard to find, wait until somebody makes it easier to get your hands on. If you can find a used copy at a used shop or a garage sale or something, like sure, pick it up, but don't I'm not going to buy the Blu-ray of this
Gotcha.
until someone makes a really cheap one.
Gotcha. So I'm gonna give it a thumbs up as well.
Woo!
I'm gonna go 70 nuggies.
Nice.
I think because of the price point of finding this,
Right.
it's tough.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're spending more than $8 to see this, I would probably not.
Yeah.
The thing that I really liked about it, I am in no way a Lovecraft expert, but I
Sure.
think the cosmic horror of just that's why I like Alien so much. Just the infinite of space and the complete unknown of how if you look at yourself in terms of space, you are very small, very insignificant, and very much nothing. And there aren't many movies that do a good job of that, or even try to.
Yeah.
Like The Void is one that kind of incorporates that idea.
Yep.
And the idea of just these things that you can't control, that are just older, wiser, bigger, badder than you could ever imagine.
Right.
And I think this does an interesting job of that. It was pretty cool. And I knew that it had some Lovecraftian themes.
Yeah.
So for that reason, I really liked it because it's a thing that's not touched upon that often.
Mm-hmm.
The acting is, okay. The accent is really hard to not kind of dwell on.
It's weird. I mean, maybe it was just we've talked about this before too, that the way in which we watch these films can definitely color our opinion of them.
Yeah.
I didn't notice the accent the first time I watched this movie. At least I didn't notice it as much as to where I would remember it.
Yeah.
I didn't notice that it changed almost every time he opened his mouth. I didn't notice that I still don't know where this character is supposed to be from. Not that any of that really matters, but it's just weird that you keep talking in random accents all the time.
There are some things that can take you out of the immersion.
Yeah, and I think
But,
that, when we watch this, and we're watching in a fairly big group with all of our friends, and it's kind of loud, and we kind of encourage a little bit of
We like to kibitz.
yeah, not quite Riff Tracks Mystery
Yeah.
Science Theater 3000 level, but we will make a joke at the movie's expense now and then, and it increases the enjoyment of everybody in
Oh,
the
of
room.
course.
But I think sometimes with stuff like that, maybe I was being a little harder on Sam Neill's accent than I should have been, but it was rough. It was rough.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of anything else. The more I watch, like I said, I hadn't seen Prince of Darkness. I really enjoy John Carpenter and
I
just
know.
how he does things.
I know.
And it has this weird, I mean, not even of that correct age, to be honest, but just that retro feel of it. And some of the camera angles in this were really awesome.
Yeah.
And if, as a horror fan with Carpenter's name behind it, see it eventually.
Yep.
Don't make it on your top 10.
Have you
but
seen
get
The
to it.
Ward?
No.
That's like his I think his most recent. It was in like 2009,
Okay.
and people say it's pretty bad.
Oh. I'll have to watch it then.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I enjoyed the movie.
Yeah.
See it if you can. Don't spend too much on it.
Yeah, I definitely agree. It is a good movie, and I don't know, maybe I would buy it on Blu-ray just to have it. I do think that, in my opinion, comparing this to the other 3 of John Carpenter's Apocalypse trilogy, the Thing is the best.
Oh my goodness.
I mean, it can't not be. It's such a good movie. I would definitely put this second. I didn't care for Prince of Darkness, but maybe other people will. I don't know. I like this movie way better than Prince of Darkness. I think even if I'm not being hard on Prince of Darkness being kind of slow, I still think this is the better film. And probably most people would agree with that.
I mean, this is a movie that I would like to go back and see because there's a lot of things I'm sure that I missed, especially a movie like this.
Yeah, well, I think that's kind of what we were talking about with like the Vermont thing. I think that if you go back now and just look at it through those eyes of, is he a character in this book from the beginning of the movie, and really try to pick up on little clues and stuff, I think it would be much more interesting. Yeah. So that about wraps it up for this episode. Spoiler Visions are not our only episodes. We don't just do Spoiler Vision episodes. We also do Eek Speak. It is our online horror house party, and you, my friends, are invited. Eek Speak is recorded live on YouTube Monday nights, 7:30 Eastern Standard Time. Would love for you to join us and just interact and chat, or just to be around, because you know what? A party just is not a party without balloons.
Yes. With helium. Don't blow them up by hand.
Oh, I just did that for Jonah's, my son's 7-year-old party. I blew up so many balloons. I was lightheaded by the end. Oh, it was awful. Party's just not a party without guests, and if you would like to be a guest on Eek Speak, all you have to do is reach out to us on Instagram at Eek Channel. That is EEKCHANNEL. You can also email us at hello@eekchannel.com. You can go to eekchannel.com, click the Be a Guest button in the upper right-hand corner, and we are losing our music so quickly, I need to start it later. My spiel is just too damn long. If you want to help out the show, you can rate, review, comment, like, subscribe, just enable notifications, do all the internet things. You can also just tell a friend that you think, hey, this is somewhat entertaining. I get some fun out of it every week. Maybe you'll get some fun out of it every once in a while. Who knows? Do that. That's all I really care about. That would be such a huge help. We are getting closer and closer to our 100 subscribers goal. We're at like 73. You guys, we're getting so close.
Woo!
I really want to have a custom URL so it's easier to link. Also, when we have that, we have that URL, we can like embed our stream like onto the website and stuff, so like it just makes it easier for everyone to find.
Yeah.
It's not so difficult to find our shit. So if you guys just could please help us out, tell your friends, subscribe, make a new email account and subscribe with that one, that'd be super, super helpful. I would really, really appreciate it. Thank you guys so much for listening.
This has been a production of Eek Channel. We make spooky stuff for people like you. You can discover more content like this at eekchannel.com, or find us on Instagram, Twitch, YouTube, Facebook, all the places. And don't be shy, we like making new friends. Thank you for tuning in, and stay eeky out there.
Hey guys, it is James and Josh.
Hey.
So you know what we forgot? We forgot to roll to see who gets the next co-host pick. So Josh, if you want to go ahead and give that thing a little whirly-durly. Oh, that's good. Is there two? Just get whatever. Get the first one.
Take the first one.
Get the first one.
I'll get the first one. G50.
Cody.
Cody
Gets next week or next month's pick.
Here we go.
There you go. And also next week will be a listener pick. So I mean, obviously, stay tuned on the old socials, and you'll see us on there trying to get your advice on what we should do. Every 5th week of the month, we are going to do a listener pick. So that'll be fun too. All right. Bye, guys.